Hi folks, it's me, Brita, and I'm here to do the Ask a Witch vlog that I didn't get to do on Wednesday because I was out camping. So I just wanted to make up for that, and today's vlog is about cults and what one is and how to recognize a cult, and some things about, how to keep yourself safe and body autonomy and stuff like that. So let me just begin by saying I am struggling a bit with depression today, so I'm working through that, and I have some St. John's wort behind me that I'll be using later to try to combat that. And I'll be doing the next broadcast of Ask a Witch on Wednesday on choosing a magical name, and I'm going to attempt to stream that through YouTube, through Patreon. So I'm not sure how that all will work, but I'm going to be working on that for the next couple days to make sure I can get it to go. And so that's where they'll be broadcast from in the future. And then today's vlog will also be put onto Patreon as well. So it'll be here, but also on Patreon. And of course, Ask a Witch is always free. I do like to have some help if you feel so inclined, if you enjoy these broadcasts and want to see more and have suggestions on things you want me to go more in depth or to a different level with these vlogs. I'm happy to do that. Just let me know what you would like. And so I'm also posting on Patreon the videos that I have from the last apprenticeship class that I did, which is a herbal apprenticeship class, but also includes energetics and magic. And the apprenticeship class, actually, we ran it for 17 years, and the actual cost of that was around $1,500 to $1,800. So if you join Patreon at the $35 level, you actually get access to the videos that I have from that series, which are certainly worth more than $35. And I'll be putting those online throughout the next couple of months to make them available for you. So consider that. So today, again, let me talk about the idea of cults. I know that anthropology has a description of what a cult is. The police department has a description of what a cult is. Our federal government has a description of what a cult is. It's used, the word is used very loosely in society to basically mean any group of followers that seem very sucked into a particular leader. Anthropology defines a cult as a group that is led by a charismatic leader that does not, the group does not question the decisions or the instructions of that leader. And there's a lot of written about cults. I grew up at a time when the Jim Jones mass suicide happened. I wasn't terribly old when it happened, and a lot of people drank poison Kool-Aid knowing full well it was poison, and died, hundreds of people, because they were told to by a leader. It's difficult because sometimes in spirituality or in politics or anything that we're passionate about, we tend to want to follow someone that we are impressed by. It's very easy to put someone on a pedestal that seems powerful and wise and in touch with things that you may not be in touch with. I mean, it could be said that the leaders of past religions, that Jesus Christ or Muhammad or Buddha were cult leaders. I mean, they were definitely charismatic leaders who had followers who did everything they said. I do know that in history records Christianity in its early days as being a cult. Most religions actually start out that way, interestingly enough, according to social science, and then develop into more complex systems of levels and rituals and that sort of thing. I have had some firsthand contact with a small cult in the town that I grew up in. There was a guy who was very well known as a cult leader in my community, and his name was Roy Grimm. And Roy had a group of young people who all lived in a house together. There was about 20 or so of them and him, and they pretty much did everything that he said. And I thought that he was very wise. I was about 16 or 17 when I met him, and I thought that he was very wise, and I felt like he had good ideas about things to do, and so I joined the group for a short period of time. And then Roy's contact with me became very sexual. And at that point, I felt like alarm bells were going off inside my head. And he kept telling me that, it was a sacred thing and that I was special. Apparently, he had done this with lots of young ladies. He was probably in his 60s, and most of the girls there were between my age 16 and 21. What he really was a predator. And unfortunately, there are quite a few out there who pose as religious leaders and visionaries. There are, of course, we know situations with, priests who are pedophiles. We see that in the news all the time. Being a spiritual leader in a community does not necessarily mean that you don't have your own issues. And it certainly does not mean that you are somehow above or beyond the things that make a person sick. And certainly being a pedophile is a sick person. How do these people end up in positions of power? Well, they're charismatic. They know how to present themselves in ways that have everyone else enamored of them. And so I've seen this in a lot of communities. I think it's not always the easiest thing to spot. I find it much easier to spot now that I'm older than I did when I was younger. I tend to be very trusting. That's why I'm in the situation I'm in now, because I am very trusting. I believe what people tell me when they tell me that they're going to do something for me or something to help me. And so I've always been very trusting. But when I was younger, I was quite a lot more trusting. And it took that an appropriate advance for me to see Roy for who he was. But this is the kind of person who, a cult leader is. And this is the kind of person Jim Jones was. This is the kind of person that people will kill themselves for. And it's I don't think that all these people are gullible. I think that they're trusting, and they get sucked into a mindset. They start to believe that this person may be divine, or have some connection with the divine, or have some special powers that other people don't have. And belief is a powerful thing, we see the things that people do in the name of any religion. They kill each other and blow things up and do all kinds of stuff. So following a cult leader doesn't make you dumb. It just means that you are gullible. It just means that you trusted and you were psychologically manipulated. That's what it means. And so what I would say is, first off, if you're following someone, if you have someone that you respect a lot and you've put them on a pedestal, you really need to kind of step back from that a little bit and be conscious of what it is that makes you think that they're somehow above other people or more special than other people. And I do this a lot with people. There are some people that I really, really respect and really like, and feel like they have a lot of wisdom to bestow. Like, for example, Louisa Tiche. I've talked to her at length for long periods of time. I certainly wouldn't follow her off of a cliff, but I honestly don't think she would lead me off of one. She is an incredible spiritualist, very connected, but also very down to earth and very clear about, what her strengths are and what her weaknesses are, and I've never seen her be inappropriate in any sort of way. So the first thing I would look for, if you're following someone and you join a coven or you join a group of people that are practicing together and they want to pressure you into something that makes you uncomfortable, that should be your first clue. A spiritual experience should be a learning experience. It should be a experience that helps us grow and helps us to transcend our own issues. And when I say that, I don't mean transcend our own autonomousness of our bodies or our own ideas about appropriateness or our own intuition. I think a lot of people get into situations where they feel compromised in a spiritual group or in a group of people, and they don't listen to their intuition because they think, well, this person would never do that to me, or this person would never behave that way. But their intuition is speaking. And I have learned, and in some ways in a hard way, that when your intuition is speaking to you, you really should listen, because it is one of the strongest, most truthful sources of information that you have access to. I mean, especially those of you who are witches, really, you should be listening to your heart and your gut. There's a lot of research that suggests that we have a field, an electromagnetic field around the heart that senses things. And that it may be that we're able to sense malevolence. I don't really know, but I do know that there are some people that I have met in the spiritual community that make me want to run the other way the very first time I meet them. And there are plenty of other people, who are thinking they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I just can't get past the intuition. And so that's one way to really listen to your intuition about a person, no matter what they appear to be or what other people say. Listen to your own intuition. Think about what they have to say. Does what they have to say is there any sort of gain that they're going to get out of it? Honestly, one of the things that people will say too, to keep in mind, we talked about this at the beginning of the Ask a Witch, people who ask you for money. Well, the flippin' church asks for money. Everybody asks for money because everybody has to have it to live. And so that's not really a sign of a cult. What is more of a sign of a cult is when you say no and everyone else in the group turns against you because you said no to the leader. That should be a really big clue. In fact, that would make me go the other way also. So a cult, I can tell you that the police department considers Wicca to be a cult. It considers it to be a benign fertility cult. That's the definition that they have given us, which is funny, as I mentioned before, because while there are priestesses who hold a lot of respect, like Starhawk and Louisa Tiche and people like that, I don't think any of them want to unquestioned lead other people into some state of stupor. First off, witches are like cats. Getting them to ritual on time is a major feat, let alone getting them to all group together and agree to something. My experience has been that, that this is one of the reasons why many people become magical practitioners, is because they don't like the structure. They don't like the categories. They don't like the rigidness of regular religious practice. They prefer the freedom of a more shamanic approach to spirituality, and this is why they're members of pagan groups, because paganism tends to be much less structured than what we call in anthropology the great faiths. And so, once we recognize that we need to have a charismatic leader and we need to have followers, it's, in order to have a cult, then that's important. So look for someone who's very influential. Look for a group of people who follow without question. Look for people who turn against you when you question the leader. And certainly any kind of inappropriate sexual advances should be a big clue. Now, this is also a tricky thing because Wicca does include rituals like the Great Rite. And the Great Rite is a sexual ritual, but it should never be undertaken under duress or in any kind of situation where a person feels uncomfortable. I mean, the Great Rite is really amazing big magic. I mean, when we're not even focusing on our energy, we can create life doing that, a whole person, another human being. When we focus that energy toward other things, mountains could be made. I mean, it's powerful, and that's one of the reasons why, the Christian church made it a sin, because it's such a powerful way to connect with divinity, especially when it's to, consenting adults who are both clear on their intention and direction. My goodness, there's nothing a church father could say or do that would compare to the power of that moment. And so the Great Rite is a part of Wicca, which is the sexual ritual, but it's never a situation, or should never be a situation, where a person is coerced into it or made to feel like they have to participate, or that they're that it's required of them. If you are in a group like that, then you should definitely leave it. Being forced into any kind of physical contact that is uncomfortable is abuse, and I don't care whether you're talking Wicca or Christianity or what you're talking. So that's an important thing also to keep in mind. Now, one of the things that Jack had brought up earlier in the year in relation to this topic was the idea of, my body is my body. And what that means is that my body belongs to me, that there isn't any priestess or priest or leader who has the right to tell me what I can and cannot, should or should not, what is appropriate or inappropriate to do with my body. My body belongs to me. It was given to me by the universe on my day of birth, and it is my choice to do with it as I choose. And so if anyone is trying to talk you into, mostly, honestly, I think women are pretty used to this. We're constantly, from the moment we hit sexual maturity, even before that, constantly talked to in a sexual manner by men. We are constantly, and in many cases, inappropriate. It's not an uncommon experience as a woman. We do this sort of thing. We deal with this sort of thing all the time, and we have to learn very early what is the appropriate way of dealing with people who are trying to coerce us into sexual behavior. And so being in the presence of a cult leader or in the presence of a cult is very like that. It's very like inappropriate sexual advances, things that feel very icky, make your stomach upset, make you feel uncomfortable, make you feel scared. These are all indications that you're probably in contact with a group that is a cult. You should always, as I said earlier, listen to your own intuition. So a cult is just a group of people with a person who is powerful at the helm. And that person may have psychologically convinced or manipulated other people into following them without question. Then when that happens, it becomes sort of like a pack of dogs sort of situation where